All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you all had yourselves a fantastic last couple days. Personally, I'm feeling recharged, refreshed, and yeah, good to go, to be honest. Besides a little bit of knee pain just from walking so gosh darn much, I am feeling excellent, and hope you guys all have those mental capital reserves topped up to where they need to be. I think just from like a personal perspective, I neglect basically my mental capital sometimes, right? You get too tunnel focused on goals, too tunnel focused on, working on projects or on trading, and next thing you know, you haven't done anything nice for yourself for 6 months, and you just don't realize how actually like burnt out and exhausted you are until it's a little bit too late. And I think to a certain extent, right, that's sort of what happened to me, right? I posted this in the Discord there yesterday, but you have yourself a fantastic run of form. Things go really, really well. You think, okay, I can't make any mistakes. I'm perfect. I'm flawless. Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's the markets. And I get slapped in the face, right? You take a loss that you don't want to take. You get stuck in some choppy price action, and then next thing you know, you feel like the world is ending. And obviously, that's not the reality. That's not the case. Drawbacks are normal. Drawdowns are normal, right? Dealing with a loss is normal. But allowing that loss to cave in your walls around you to a certain extent, it is not. And something that I'm going to try to be a little bit more conscious of here going forward. It's just kind of that self-care side of things, right? Making sure that I'm, realizing there's more to life than just the market, right? Even though this is my favorite thing in the world, it's something that I look forward to sharing with you all on a day-to-day basis. The point of trading is to have that freedom, right? And to live the best version of our lives. And when we stop doing that, then the consequences that the market wants to give us end up being a little bit catastrophic, right? Or at least they feel significantly worse than they need to be. So from my end, feeling really recharged, feeling really good. Ate the good pizza, saw a good baseball game, walked around, took some nice pictures, and got to essentially like play the different side of the brain, right? So one side of your brain is all analytical and numbers and math and all this kind of stuff. You got to feed that creativity or that creative element of it as well, and reward yourself for basically just creating that balance, right? And I think ultimately that's where you're going to find the most success on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis. And ultimately that's my objective here. So almost like a little bit of a goal, if you want to call it that, right, for myself, is to be more proactive in managing that mental capital, being more proactive in making sure that those stores don't ever go down to zero. And then from there, right, the market will kind of just take care of me and keep putting me in situations where it's easy to be successful. I think fundamentally we all we all fight with our greed, right? And we all fight with our psychology, where when things are going well, you get greedy and you want them to go even better. When things are going poorly, you think, oh my gosh, this is never going to end. And just finding that balance there somewhere in the middle ultimately needs to be the objective, and something that I need to focus on just a little bit more here in my personal life. But with that being said, right, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be here trading with you all. It's a cold and sunny day here in Montreal. And looking forward to seeing, how this week wants to play out, and, how we want to go from there. My ego is quite ruthless as well, Rusty, right? 100%. And, sometimes you create that tunnel vision for yourself, right? When things are going well, keep feeding it. And then, you got to take that step back and just be a little bit more proactive, not reactive. And so, for myself, I very much needed that little break. And yeah, feeling good, feeling refreshed, feeling recharged, and ready to get after it. So let's start mapping things out. Like I mentioned in the Discord, the plan is to be a little bit more detailed in the morning prep, so that we're just a little bit more specific over what areas that we're targeting, from just like a trade to trade basis, especially for those fake out scenarios. What does a fake out look like? What's the price? What's those sort of variables? And then that should make it a little bit easier for us to be specific when we're looking for price action to behave in a certain way. Fundamentally, I don't think that the system is broken. I don't think that the strategy really needs that many refinements. We're going to have variance. We're going to have good times. We're going to have bad times. That's all totally normal. And so, yeah, it's all about basically not overcorrecting, not undercorrecting, and just kind of finding that balance. Hopefully we'll find it here today. Kick off the week here with a bang and set ourselves up for what should hopefully be a tremendous kind of period of volatility as we creep up towards the U.S. election. So, with that being said, let's start mapping things out, figure out what we want to do here today, and let's have ourselves a fantastic trading session. So good morning, Howell, Suresh, Craig, Raim, Ruben, John, Salstein, Steven, Jeff, Tasha, GH, Jeremy, Daniel, Antonin, Topher, Juan, Nate, Bugs, Kenneth, Brian, Sammy, Rusty, Randall, AR, and Tanja. I hope you all have yourselves a great start to the AM here, and let's get after it. So first things first, what's the count here on ES? Let's start there. So what's the count here, team? Yeah, 1 for 3 done, spot on. Right, and so 1 for 3 here to the downside. And then if we look at yesterday's price action, right, it was a fake out higher and a fake out lower. And we seem to have bounced pretty well off of that like 57.25 57.25 area. So if we're going to look for a fake out, it's going to be a fake out off of that zone. So we'll say ORB fake outs. Good morning, Ben. And then we're targeting ORB breakout over like 57.75, going up towards like 58. So we'll go like 57.80. Good morning, Brett. 57.90, 5800. And then above that 5800, right, we're going to be targeting a move towards like 5830. So again, just fill that out 10 points along the way. So 5830. Cool. To the downside, right, we'd like to see a breakdown here towards 57.25, right, as our kind of our area. And we'd like to see probably a fake out around like 5800. And then break down towards, 57.25. So we've got 57.30 mapped out already. We're going to keep that as is, just round it up here just a little bit, and then go from there. Any questions? Does that make sense? I'm going to take that as a yes. All right. NQ, what's the count here? So maybe a little bit of a trend line here, maybe even a little bit of a pattern consolidation. Something like this, right? A little bit maybe of a possible wedge. 1 point of contact, 2, 3, 4, and 4 at the bottom. So a relatively mature pattern set up there. And what's the count? Yeah, 1 for 3 again. Yeah, correct. And the difference, right, between NQ and ES here is that ES made a higher high and a lower low. And Q, on the other hand, did not make a lower low, right? So it lower low would have been under 19,941. So we'd like to see, I mean, it's less bearish characteristics. So we'll look at the internals here in a second. They're maybe screaming a little bit more bearish here this morning. But definitely a little bit of a slight difference, right, between ES and NQ. And we'll say a fake out off of the trend line, right, which is like 19.9. And then we're going to be targeting a move towards the upper end of the trend line, which is 23, we'll call it. I'll call it 22.75. So we'll call it right, and then above that we'll go like 19.4, 19.5. Sorry, 24, 25. Cool. And then to the downside here, we'd ideally like to lose the trend line here, right? Give me a rejection off of the upper trend line and then a breakdown towards like 19.9. So, or be fake out off of and then break down towards 19.9, 19.8. Fine. We haven't seen too much changing here from a price action perspective in the last week or so, right? From Tuesday's open to today's implied open, we're what, 130 points, 140 points. So not exactly a monster move here that's occurred in the last little bit, been relatively choppy. So let's see if we can get a resolution here of that chop. We've got an extremely elevated VIX relative to, say, 2 weeks ago. And so that does give us an expectation of potentially getting a little bit further follow through here this AM, but let's not force it, right, if it isn't there. All right, CL. So green candle, right, decreasing volume, and then a massive gap down here. So pretty big rejection. Obviously, there's a lot of conflict going on in the Middle East here, which is impacting, obviously, crude prices. Make sure there's no data today. Don't see anything there. That looks fine. So we do have a 1 out of 3 here still. And so we're going to be looking for a fake out off of 73.60. Right, so ORB fake out off of 73.60. Then break out towards, you know, basically 77.50, right? 78.50. It's a big move. And then to the downside here, rejection wise, maybe a little bit more challenging to find an obvious area, right? Like we're not going to get a, well, we can, but it'll be surprising if we get a $4 fake out above 78.48. So we'll say maybe off of like 77. and then break down under these lows towards 70, call it 73.50. Then it goes like 70.50. Cool. Make sense? ORB is opening range breakout. So it's essentially this variation or this strategy. So this is what I look for on a day-to-day basis. And I kind of have like 3 versions of this setup that I can trade to the upside, 3 versions of the setup that I can trade to the downside, with kind of like multiple entry techniques based off of that. So there's like 12 total variants that we can trade here on a day-to-day basis. And we'll see if we can get one of them to cooperate here this morning. All right. So Apple, red candle, increasing volume, gap up, opening up in the implied middle of yesterday's range. We'll say setting up as an inside bar, right? Cool. And so we'll just do it like this, right? So opening up in the implied middle, it's got to break out above 226, right, or under 221 for us to be very interested. All right, Tesla, red candle, decreasing volume, gap up. Much more of a similar story, right, to the indexes. So 1 out of 3 here to the downside. And we need to break down under 240 for a bearish continuation, and above 251, right, for an easy bull narrative. All right, Microsoft, 3 out of 3 here to the downside, post breaking through this channel. Red candle, increasing outlier volume, and then like a 25-cent gap down here this AM. So we'll call this a 3 for 3 here to the downside. And we're going to say NA for the bull case, right? And we're looking for a breakdown here towards 400. We'll say a 408 breakdown. Okay, Amazon, red candle, increasing outlier volume, gap up, opening up in the implied middle. So a little bit more like Apple than it is, say, Microsoft. All right, so 2 out of 3 to the downside with volume. And we'll say setting up as an inside bar. Right, and it's setting up as an inside bar because it's opening up in the middle of yesterday's range, right? So it's got a lot of work to do to break out higher, got a lot of work to do to break down lower. So let's see if it has the enthusiasm. Okay, AMD, higher high, higher low, red candle, weakest possible red candle. Opening up above those highs, inside that gap. We've seen semiconductor names kind of pushing the thesis here recently, right? They've been the ones that have been in control here. So we might try to fill the remainder of this gap. That would not be too surprising. So we will call this a 1 out of 3 here, a weak 1 out of 3 to the downside. And so we're looking for a gap fill, right, towards, what is that, 175? And then to the downside here, right, would have to be a breakdown under 168. All right, NVIDIA, 3 for 3 here to the upside. Got a little bit rejected there yesterday, right? Body of the candle is smaller than the wick of the candle, at least at first glance. So you'd like to invalidate a lot of those quote-unquote sellers off of that like 130 area. So a breakout above 131.50 would be the starting point here. And it's weak, right, because of the candle shape, not because of the volume profile. So we're looking for a 131.50 breakout. And that means that we we shouldn't be looking for any dip buys because we don't have very much evidence that yesterday was a strong dip buy day here, right? Where basically the selling or the buying pressure, was from open. Then it kind of got stuck, went higher, and pulled back about 50% of that move. So instead of trusting that dip buyers are going to continue to protect that area, let's see if we can get a breakout above that previous area of resistance or that area where we've seen price action get stuck, and then look to move on and enjoy our lives. All right, Meta, higher high, higher low, gross looking candle, but reminds me a lot of NQ, right? Similar looking candle, right, as we saw there yesterday. This 584 is incredible. I think there was the thing that came out here this weekend that Zuckerberg is starting to live like a billionaire, right? He's turning SUVs into minivans for his wife, which is like an all-time dork move, but bless him, I guess. So obviously, right, with this 1 out of 3 here, we have kind of non-trending price action. And it's not quite opening up in the middle of that range. So we do have a little bit more enthusiasm here for a breakout to the upside or a breakdown here. We need to get under 581, call it 580 for a continuation to the lower. And then to the upside, right, above 602, we'll call it 603. Yeah, it's a pretty dorky looking car, but hey. At least he's, he's finally living like a billionaire. Good for him. All right, Netflix. Can't seem to hold under that 700 area, right? That continues to be a little bit of a zone. It's just a lot of wicks right under that price action, and it's a strong-looking candle. The fact that it couldn't hold under 700, maybe a little bit of a reason to be pessimistic about bearish continuation. So let's see if that is the case. That would mean that I need to see a breakdown here under 596 for any really continuation. Good morning, Herschel. So let's see it break down under 7. All right, Google. Pretty strong red candle, right? Pretty big, I mean, relatively bearish volume. And just under 163 here on the close, above that here this morning. So it's still going to be a 2 out of 3 here to the downside with volume. So no bullish case. And then we're looking for a 162.50 breakdown. Or maybe like a rejection off of like 165. One thing that's also worth potentially noting here today, which could be leading to an elevated VIX. See if we can find it here. Don't know what the ticker is off the top of my head. 1 second. So this, I think, is what's leading to a lot of that potential fear right in the market. China had a pretty big rip higher, huge sell-off day there yesterday. Does that lead to continuation lower, right, on further stimulus talks? Or is that like a capitulation sell-off here to trap everyone? That I think is setting up for 2 possible narratives, right? If you now see a lot of that profit taking happening in China, well, that money's going to flow from somewhere to somewhere, right? So it's going to flow from China potentially back into like US-based equities, which would be a scenario here for us to get out of this grind, right, that we've seen for essentially the last 3-4 weeks. So if we can get a breakout away from that range and see money kind of flow back into the US-based indexes, that sets us up, right, for an opportunity to really break out of this potentially trending market. If the Asian markets are going to act as like a little bit of a magic 8 ball, where it's like predicting our future and showing us, what's possibly in store for the markets, then that could also be a reason why the VIX is so elevated here in that like 22 handle. Regardless, with the VIX reading, we do have a significant amount of volatility here in store for us today. So it's just a question of where things set up, where we get clean bit of price action, and then hopefully, right, we can take advantage of that early momentum and set ourselves up. So yeah, that's really the plan here this morning, right? In general, we have a little bit more of a mixed narrative, right? We've got some sort of trending price action here to the downside, but not exactly super strong versions of that trending price action, right? It's a lot of decreasing volume or like non-outlier volume with a few kind of exceptions. And then semiconductor names, which have been leading the charge here for the last month or so, are continuing to look hot here this morning. So they didn't sell off much, right, yesterday when everything else was kind of a little bit red. And so if they continue to pop, that's going to bring the market up with it in general. So let's see how things shape up here this morning. I think we've got a pretty clean narrative. We've got scenarios in either direction here today, and we're going to look for a breakout of this consolidation. In the short term, until we're kind of still stuck inside these zones, do want to be a little bit cautious, basically not just get chopped out with a non-trending market. So we're looking for momentum to return in a big way. We're looking for enthusiasm to kind of show back up and create some level of conviction for us. And then when it does, hopefully we can take advantage of that price action and set ourselves up for what should be a nice quarter. Any questions here, team? Anything you want to go over? Happy to answer those scenarios here now. Good morning, Herschel. So what's your entry price here? Suresh, what'd you do? Long, short, what are you doing? It's a 3 for 3 to the upside. Ah, you're in great shape, man. That's a good dip buy. It looks like it might want to try to fill this gap from like the upside to the downside. So a little retracement into like 48.50 wouldn't be too surprising. If it could then bounce off of that area, you're in pretty good shape here for a move towards like the 60 handle. But let's see how it reacts to basically this gap fill. I mean, how much could it go up? I don't know. But I would say like your next target, if you can hold and fill this gap and sustain it, would be the upper end of this range, right? Which is like 64-ish. From a Bollinger Band perspective, you've got a good breakout spot. So generally you want to go like double whatever the BBs are. So that's 18 points. So that takes you up to about $66, something along those lines. Hey, good morning, Rod. All right, so I'm just going to go make myself a quick cup of coffee, spend a few minutes here visualizing a successful trading day, and then let's get after it here and have ourselves a fantastic trading session. Be back in a minute or two here, team. You can use TradingView, Poggy. So TradingView will allow you to paper trade alongside with us while you learn our strategy, and it'll allow you to see the charts the same way as I can. Really, any trading software is going to be acceptable. They all have paper trading accounts or anything along those lines. So feel free to either sign up for TradingView, use their functions and features, sign up for that live data, or use even like a Robinhood if you want. All right, so let's see how the market wants to behave here today. And let's go from there. Yeah, no worries, Poggy. Welcome. Feel free to ask questions. I'll do my best to try to answer them as easily or as best as I can. So don't hesitate here. So good buying pressure early on a lot of our tech names, right? Which I think sets up easier for us, at least that scenario of that bull case, right, for NQ and ES. And the bull case will be the easier trade here, kind of targeting the upper trend line. Now, we should be less than that, right, on our ORB breakout. So within that context, we should be okay. And it's good volume, maybe not great volume. So ES, probably a little bit more already. And Q, by the looks of it, just a little bit less. In ES, a bigger sell scenario than NQ. Not a huge range at the open either, right? Only 4.5 points. So you're targeting a move that would then be 9 points away. You know, hard for us to get the risk reward to justify that on the 3-min time frame. So this could potentially be a 5-min day here versus a 3-min day. Just as that just becomes a little bit more tradable for us. And again, right, our biggest concern generally across the board is that we have been in a consolidating market here for a while. Right? We'll say even from like that, say, Thursday the 19th breakout, right? It's not really been any sustained moves higher, not really any sustained moves lower. So it's kind of like assume the market's going to behave the same way it always has until you get a proven otherwise. So we don't want to be too aggressive here chasing a monster breakout trend creating day until we see that evidence of it occurring. But ES looks the best here to the downside. Okay, crude, decent volume as well. It's hard to ignore the size of that rejection here pre-market. It's NQ, not the volume, not even a great range on that. And then our leading names still mostly going higher here. While VIX is continuing to climb, right? So now at 22, a little bit higher than our open. Trading view. This is trading view. So for now, relatively slow start to the morning. And that's fine, right? I'm not really in a rush here to do anything. Trying to really emphasize. So, I mean, this is maybe a ridiculous analogy. But I went to a pizza place yesterday. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews. I mean, one bite, everybody knows the rules, right? Type thing. And his highest rated ever pizza spot is John's of Bleecker Street, or John's on Bleecker Street. And had to go check it out. It was the last thing I did before I flew out. Or before I got stuck at the airport, I should say, for a long time. But it was incredible. And the pizza was just really simple dough. It was really simple sauce, and it was fresh cheese. So it was like maybe 10 ingredients total, right? Maybe. And it was exceptionally good, right? And it just reminded me that, hey, less is more. You don't need all the frills. You don't need all this extra stuff. You don't need all this goo. You just need high quality, high conviction opportunities. You can create something pretty spectacular. I mean, for me, it was a 10 out of 10. It was the best pizza I've ever had. Oh, nice, Alex. Hope you had a nice trip. Yeah, it's a rookie score. Agreed, yeah. But it's damn good. Oh, he went nuts when I picked him up. Yeah, he went nuts. Oh, the game was awesome. It was incredible. I had an awesome seat. It was like second row, or sorry, first row, second deck. And it was an incredible view. So far, right, rallies higher have been getting sold. But yeah, 3 min on the ES can be relatively untradeable here, right? Just not nearly enough range. But yeah, so far no real tradable opportunities here yet. Hey, good morning, Jen. How you doing? So let's see if we see another rally here get stuffed on NQ. CL giving us a bit of volume here on this opening range breakdown. Not a ton of space towards 74.20. Again, right, another stuffed there on ES and Q as well, right? Potentially stuffing. So the reason we can't trade CL here, right, is the risk reward's going to be pretty much impossible for us to get on a retest of low of day, right? So 74.52. 74.54 would have had to been the entry, and you can't get a justifiable risk reward towards that area. So no trade there. Possibly here on this 5-min on ES, that's where things are trying to get a little bit more interesting again, right? Another rally gets stuffed. And Q giving us an inside bar, so less appealing. And again, volume isn't as impressive on NQ as it is ES. Apple not moving. Tesla fading. Amazon not moving. AMD not moving a ton. So we have to be a little bit patient. Again, can't do this on CL here on the 5. We're targeting a move towards 74.20, right? Which is just not getting the risk reward here to justify it. So we're looking for an increasing volume standard here. Then our fake out spot for crude, right, is like down here-ish. So that might end up possibly being the scenario that we're interested in. But so far, so choppy. So no reason to rush anything yet. Remember, right? We don't trade for the feeling of having a position on, right? We're trying to trade so that we basically are just executing our edge and executing our edge without any discrimination. When we start to cut corners or we crave action or we do whatever, our biases change, and then all of a sudden we start to see things just a little bit differently than maybe what the reality actually is. And so we want to avoid that, right? As much as humanly possible. Now, easier said than done, obviously. So let's see if we can get a nice setup here. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. We're only 18 minutes into the day, so there's not really a reason to rush yet. NQ can't seem to hold above, 2100. ES can't really break down under 5763. Can't really break out above 5770. So we're a little bit stuck here right now. CL, we've maybe got a little bit of follow through, but this would have now been stressful. It's good volume on the 10-min, but a bad candle shape. So not particularly tradable. So again, an attempted rally higher here, but on decreasing volume. Hey, tomorrow, welcome. Feel free to ask lots of questions. Try to get involved as much as you want. Do my best here to answer as much as I can. Yeah, live stream is every day. I stream within reason every day. So I'll take some days off here and there. But I usually go from about 9 a.m. to about 11:30, something along those lines. Okay, Apple starting to break up. Maybe Tesla finding some lows. VIX still at 22. So So just remaining very cautious here in the short term. No edge yet anywhere. So I would like to see a reversal lower on CL. So I would like to see it off of yesterday's lows more so than in the lower third. Also don't like how it's faking out first and then pulling back here. This feels like a trade you get stopped out on. So I'd like to see a little bit more extension here. Bounce off of yesterday's lows. That's where we saw price action find support previously. So let's see if it can do so again. So what I'm trying to do here with my prep, Antonin, is basically map out those areas, right? So ORB fake out off of 73.60, then break out towards, right, 75, 77.50, yada, yada, yada. But I want to try to be a little bit less aggressive trying to buy those early dips. Because that ends up just being max frustration when it doesn't work. So it's not that I'm not willing to play fake outs. I just need to see if I'm going to play that reversal scenario, I need to see it relatively extended. Really, my objective here to a certain extent is to be just a little bit pickier. Especially when right now, right, we look at price action on the daily time frame, things just are not moving, right? So it's been essentially a month of muck. So for me to be like super aggressive and trying to front run trending price action, that's going to be a little bit challenging, I think, from my perspective. Because we have no evidence of those moves really sustaining or following through here in the last month or so. So I don't want to like front run that story in anticipation of finally getting that narrative. I mean, NQ to the upside, maybe trying to get a little bit interesting. We've broken out above that 2100 area. It'd be targeting a move towards 2173. Biggest issue, I would say, right, is that there's just a lack of range for our target here. Right, we're going to be pretty close to hitting it already. So maybe this is better on the longer time frame, where then you can target a move towards like 207, which is that upper trend line, which maybe make a little bit of sense. Because, yeah, just risk reward wise here, right, you need to see a pullback into 2107. And then on the aggressive entry technique, you can't justify it because you'd like to see an entry off a retest off of like 146.50. So it doesn't have the space, right, to justify that that play. ES didn't hold above the opening range, so although it's increasing volume, it's not a good enough look. Yeah, so this right now is the 3-min time frame. I'll look at the 3-min, the 5-min, the 10-min, and the 15 usually. That's usually my combo. If you look here on my chart, it'll say like S&P E-mini futures 5. So that tells me I'm on the 5-min. If I switch this, it'll say 10. So you'll always be able to get that information there. And then NQ, right, if it wants to keep climbing kind of weekly up towards that 2200 area, that then becomes our spot to look for reversals or rejections. Pretty big breakout on ES on the 3. So again, not a realistic target on the 3-minute time frame. On the 5 could be a little bit interesting, but on the 3 not so much. Yeah, we need to see decent volume though, right, on NQ on this 10 min. It's okay. It's definitely okay. But yeah, that would be the better scenario than the shorter time frames for now. Let's see if ES can get there. $21.50. Like, it hasn't really moved since this 5 min. Let's look on the 15. Apple, a good breakout. AMD bouncing. Nvidia, okay. Certainly seems like we do have more bullish momentum than bearish momentum here early. So let's see. So Nvidia, I'm not really interested in buying. I pretty much only trade the futures here at the moment. So I'll trade like NQ, ES, and CL. What I care about here is looking at these leading names. So, you know, if Nvidia is telling me that it's got room to the upside and, you know, the tech heavy index is telling me that it's a bullish scenario, then I'm going to have a little bit more confidence that I'm going to get follow through here higher. So I'm basically looking at, you know, the Nvidias, the Apples, the Teslas to help me identify how consistent that trending story is for me to basically look to trade it. Early rip on NQ, so that's probably going to be less interesting, right? Because it's already moved without me. So I'm going to be watching ES here. Stop loss 57.76. Okay, it needs to be an entry under 57.79.75. So as is, that could be like a 3-unit play. So being very patient here, right? I do not need to force this. I mean, NQ just ran like a psycho without me. So watching closely here, about a point away. See if he can find that support here on a pullback. Ooh, that got close. All right, guys, so I am in average price 57.7925. Stop loss at 57.76. 3 contracts. So feel good about that entry here. Feel very good about that entry, actually. So let's see if it can continue to support higher here and fly. But so far, so good. So up about 2 points here a contract so far. Let's see if it can keep giving me some enthusiasm higher. Great entry, Brian. Great entry. Let's see how this thing behaves. Obviously, the more separation we can get, the better. Let me grab my notepad here. So let's see if it's got the legs here to keep pushing higher. Sounds good, Juan. Good entry. It's a good entry. So let's make sure that this thing holds above 80 here. And ideally, right, closes up nearer towards the highs than our entry price. So if it can close up around 82.75 or better, that's a much stronger scenario. All of a sudden, this I don't like. Okay, I survived. Wouldn't say that was an ideal reaction, though, truth be told. Looks like a fake out on the 3-min time frame. Come on. See, this is probably what's giving me probably the most nervous reaction here, is NQ's pulling back just a little bit as well. That's entry price. It's got to close above 80 here. Minute to go. Come on, don't do it. Come on. $12 seconds. Got to close above 80. Come on. Trying to buy myself a little bit of time here, but I'm not sure if that's the right move. All right, and I'm out. It's a little bit of a frustrating trade. So for me, minus 87.50 on what looks to be potentially a little bit of a fake out here now. Gold's at 74. How far does it bounce? 73.86. Just got stuck, right? Stuck in a little fake out. NQ possibly starting to set up as that rejection scenario here, right? Starting to possibly set up as a sell-off here off of that trend line. I lost 87.50 on that tomorrow. So not enough volume there on that time frame. $10 not enough yet either. Leading names all looking like rejections. So what these volume bars are looking at, right, is kind of potentially capitulation post-entry. So we don't have an easy rejection thesis on ES. On NQ, more so, because we're at that kind of daily resistance point, right? So we're at those highs. So here we have a possible scenario where we can look for a reversal thesis. But we don't have confirmation of that here yet. Essentially, post our initial trade entry, we've seen volume disappear. Yeah, the fact that I just couldn't hold that 80, I should have closed just a little bit earlier than I did. Especially because I said it out loud, right? Which I think is the frustrating part there. So now we're looking for some sort of bearish engulfing rejection, right? Bearish engulfing on volume. Something like that, right, to play a thesis. Crude getting close to that fake out spot here off of our lows as well. Again, possibly capitulation there at 10.03. So I don't see the confirmation candle here, Aria. At least not yet. So that's what I'm trying to wait for. Yeah, so with the thing with micro, so if I were to type in MES1 here, You're going to get a different looking volume standard because the amount of volume that is traded on MES versus ES is going to be different. So it's easier to get outlier volume here because there's about 1/20th of the amount of participants that you get on the minis. So for sure, you're going to have times where you have mixed matching signals, right, from a volume perspective, but I'm trading everything based off the analysis I do on ES. So if I'm going to be trading micros, or that's going to be my emphasis, I'm still going to look to do all my analysis here on ES or NQ, and then simply just use that for my execution. Price-wise, it's going to be exactly the same. So I would rather... I would rather trade it on the one that has, trade the one that consistently trades more volume. Because the price correlation is 1-to-1, right? So it's not like, so it's not like you're going to get a big breakdown on MES and a big breakout on ES. They're always going to move the same way, tick by tick. So just because you have an increasing volume standard on MES, well, it's easy for that to be invalidated on ES because there's a lot more volume, right? So not to say that it can't work. You're clearly in a nice trade there. But just every now and then you'll get yourself in situations where you just get chopped up, right? Just because one signal came in or another one came in. So CL starting to creep down towards that 73.60 area. So still looking for an outlier volume bar to show up. Doesn't seem to want to make its presence known here yet. Not going to happen on the 3. Can we argue that that's a low vol pullback into the ORB? Probably. On a pseudo reversal. Not enough volume on that 3-min. So again, let's see if ES can show us, or NQ can show us some increasing volume here to play that pop lower. If it doesn't, no worries. If it does, we'll be in business. Crude still got a little bit further to go down before it's tradable here for that bounce scenario. So again, little fake out lower, couldn't sustain that breakdown there, not enough volume. It's got 30 seconds to go. Would need to close under 65. Seems unlikely. So I think maybe the only thing I have left to watch here with some conviction is probably CL. Huh? Maybe not. Doesn't look like it's going to be outlier volume, though. So it's a good rejection, held under, but not on a good enough volume standard. Okay, so now we can start possibly watching for that crude capitulation. Right? We want to see a failed breakdown under previous day's lows, right? So if it's going to continue to push lower through this area, then obviously we know that, okay, bears are strong. They're not out of juice. If we see bulls step in and defend this, now this is mega volume. If we see them step in and defend this, then, okay, we've got a reversal target here. That's a very impressive move. Biggest volume of the day. Pretty interesting. 73.30. Targeting a move towards 73 is not going to give us the risk reward we need to justify taking on that risk. 3-min time frame on NQ, not enough volume. 3-min time frame on ES, again, not enough volume. Apple finding support, Microsoft finding support. It's hard to find a bearish narrative, to be honest. So CL's got to close green, right? And as a candle that looks like 1, 2, or 3, most likely going to look like candle 2 here in this context. We might have to wait for the 10-min time frame, right, as well, or the 15. So they're all closing here in a minute. Doesn't look like we're going to get enough volume on ES on any time frame. So that's 42. It's got to climb 20 cents as a bare minimum. So I trade ES, NQ, and CL tomorrow. Yeah, so I trade these 3 tickers. So ES, NQ, and CL, the futures. Everything else I just use for basic information to help me determine how strong my thesis is for those trades. So for now, small red day here. ES still struggling to reclaim and capture that 80 area. There's that original entry. So let's see if crude can hold above this zone. Maybe this is the 30-min breakdown. It's too much. Then the other scenario we have potentially in play here, right, is that NQ breakout above that trend line. If we can't get that reversal to play out, right, then our next most likely scenario on NQ would be that breakout through that consolidation. It's a disturbing lack of volume here, though, I would say, as like a general theme. So we haven't seen outlier volume, right, since like 10:05. So I don't want to front run that narrative here until I see a decent story show back up. Right? A lack of volume or a lack of enthusiasm at, 2200 or at previous low of a day doesn't make you feel as if there's a ton of respect, right, for the thesis. So again, a high volume rejection, increasing outlier volume, bigger than anything we've seen since, 10 a.m. Sets us up for a move down towards 2072. Crude finding support now at that 73.60 area that we identified. So again, possible reversal scenario here is in play. Time frame wise, that's maybe where I'm struggling just a little bit, because I'm not going to get bigger volume than that 5-min signal. I'm not going to get bigger volume than that 3-min. And this is still just consolidating inside that range. So I would need to recover above 73.93, right, for that to get interesting. So let's see this reaction. That's a big pop through 200. And then our next zone here would be towards 275. It's not quite outlier, but it's bigger than anything I've seen. I think I can do this. So stop loss 2203.50. So as is, right, this could be a 2 or even 3 contract play. Let's see. Buy yourself time to make this decision. We want to watch this carefully. Failed breakout scenario, right, or a failed confirmation here to the upside gives us a reversal trigger, right? So we kind of have a win-win situation here in either direction. Stop loss now would have to be 202. So that would be a 2 contract position. Risking about $350. So let's see if we can get elevator up, stairs down here. Again, see how it finds support here off of this 200. If it can't hold here and we get that big volume, right, that's going to be our reversal trigger. So it's starting to seem like that might be the more likely scenario here. right? Because every time it's attempted to make higher highs, it's sold off here back under 200. So that's acting kind of like a magnet here, and a magnet in the wrong way, right, if you're a bull. And with the volume pace that we're on here, right, 2 minutes to go, we're very comfortably going to get bigger volume than what we had on that 1030 bar. So if we're able to hold above and survive and absorb all that selling pressure, that then becomes a green light for us to climb here to the upside, right? Because it should be outlier volume. If this thing closes under 200 and basically confirms that fake out scenario, then we also have a setup here to the downside. So a close above 211. Does that make sense? Okay, last 20 seconds. Ooh, that volume dried up a little bit. Definitely looked like it was going to be well above that pace. Let's see. My OBS looks fine, Rusty. But if it is skipping, there's a possible chance it could be on my end. Kind of a no man's land close at 202.50. Higher high, higher low, held above 200 on decreasing volume. If that's as strong as bears get, we should still be in play here to the upside. A little bit of an inside bar. Kind of like, looks like a cup and handle on the 3-min. How bad's the skipping? Okay, interesting. If it continues to persist, let me know. There it goes. All right. So we may have a chance here on the 3-min time frame. Again, this should be outlier volume. It's a fucking rip. Holy. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse. It's a big rip on ES as well. Trying to work on my language team. Less cursing, more money. That was an impressive move. That's unlucky, Jen. That's really unlucky. It's trying to torture us a little bit. That was a very impressive rip. $10.44. Got to fill up because our target's like 86, right? Previous high. There's your profit target, right? So don't have that much space here. So it's a clear trend line breakout, right? Really, the only possible entry would here be a retest of the trend line. So 22.12. I didn't see anything here specifically, Antonin. But again, I don't really watch or like follow the news intraday very much, right? For me, it's generally not a very good indicator. It's just far too noisy. It's like there was nothing on our calendars here this morning. So it'd have to be some sort of maybe headline from someone. Could be a big order from someone. Hard to say. He's in squeeze mode. So ideally, right, we got to close above this red line here on the 10-min time frame. Because if so, then we can start to target a larger level. VIX still 21 handle, so it's plenty of volatility. Everything else also ripping. We're in okay shape here. Again, I'm 2 points away from being green on the day, which is both frustrating but encouraging. We've not missed out on anything on crude. I still feel like there's a possible play here setting up. Fake out, bearish engulfing candle. Could this be the narrative? Capitulation, couldn't hold 90. Rejection off of 94.50. Maybe a little bit galaxy brain. $15-minute time frame on NQ, possibly setting up as that rejection. Same thing on ES. Just trying to think, is there a setup before that? A little inside bar there. Be pretty tight stop loss, like 9 points. That's interesting. Like if that's the best bear's got. 8 points. So stop loss has to be 22.34. And you want an entry under 43. See if we can find support here. And if not, right, we have that set up. Seems to be bouncing pretty well off of that. Asking $400. So an aggressive defense here would feel good. A poor defense, right? And we'll look to reset for a different thesis. That looks like a poor defense. Again, it's low volume. Low volume there as well. Just a little inside bar on the 10. Doji on the 15. Breakout on the 30. Breakout on the hourly. Decent defense. Higher high, higher low. This looks really tempting. Right, like high vol breakout, low vol pullback into the moving average. High vol breakout, low vol pullback into moving average rips. High vol breakout, low vol pullback, rips. Kind of the thesis. The other thing I'm fighting with just a little bit is that 2074 a reasonable target? Or that 2274, is it a reasonable target? I mean, for this setup, or for that risk reward, yes. I think it is. It's got to be 239 or lower. Kind of annoying we got shaken out of this. That'd be a nice win. This is going to be an increasing vol bar. Breakout on the 30. It's a breakout, then pull back into support on the 3. Other leading names behaving the same way. Thing is, the risk reward is just so exceptional here. Crude's still dumping. The only time frame it doesn't look like a buy is the 15. Everything else telling me I should be looking to go long. $5,800 would be maybe a more realistic target on ES. Stop loss would be under than the EMA. I think that might be slightly more realistic. So 785.75. Entry under 89 by 5 units there. You'd be risking about 500 bucks or so. Sorry, my math was off. It'd be about a 4-unit play. Again, good recovery. It's 10 points from the original entry, which is annoying. I'd be looking for basically a retest here of the EMA, right, as my entry target. So if our thesis is that that is acting as support, I'd like to see either like a fake out through it, right, or for it to act as support here on a retest. So that's about 87.25. Which would then push me back. I could run 7 contracts. And again, that worst case scenario, I finished the day off $600 something in the red. It's definitely an acceptable bit of tuition to play or to pay. And I'm okay with that as like a number. The problem is, will I get an entry here? Okay, so watching closely here again, decreasing volume, little pullback, holding the EMA. So I am watching here. 87.25, right, or lower as an entry price. Yeah. So it's the high vol breakout here, and it's just a low vol pullback right into an area of support. Right? We keep doing a low vol pullback here into this EMA and then bouncing and climbing higher. So it's the same thing here on NQ. But ES, I've got more room to the upside. Come on. All right, so I am in 87.25. Stop loss 85.75. Well, there we go. Took the stop. Couldn't even get it out in time. So I took their $433 loss. Man, what the fuck? So down about 525 on the day. And now are we finally getting that rejection? Rejection, bearish engulfing candle. So here's your setup candle. Rejection above high a day. Failed breakout. Your confirmation is a bearish engulfing candle without volume. So we get stuffed. $85.50. Thing I'm fighting with is how tight the stop loss is. I think it's fine. Just trying to find the stop loss that I can justify. And failed breakout, rejection, failed inside bar breakout, bearish engulfing, increasing volume. So possibly getting stuck at trendline resistance. There's a big rejection. That's kind of what we've been waiting for here for a while. So stop loss 245.75. Have to be a one contract play. All right, so let's see if this thing can break down here. I am in at 223.25 short. One contract. So far so good here. So far so very good. Let's see if this thing's got a bit more juice. Back the entry. Again, this is only one contract here. Not a perfect entry. I'm out of paper. All right, so let's see if this thing's got juice here. We're in okay shape. Again, keeps rejecting that trend line, so I like my thesis. Down about $75 on this. So again, keeping the risk tight, position small. If I'm correct, I'll be able to build up my position here and get some follow through. If I'm wrong, I'll lose like 300 bucks. So again, I'm willing to take these risk-reward entries here. Especially when price action is a little bit extended. So yeah, perfect entry would have been, 233, maybe higher. So a little bit prematurely on my initial entry. Not appalled with my thesis. But maybe a little bit unconvinced with my timing. So notes here, right? 15 min fake out, then trend line rejection. One contract play, but kind of a crappy entry. Best entry was at 233. Struggled to find a good stop loss location. And so that's what I have in my notes. Let's see if this thing can break down back under entry, make lows, and get under 200. That would have to be the combo of information I see here. Again, right? Another little trend line rejection. So let's see if it's got some juice. Yeah, 10 points better entry, and I'm feeling a lot better about this trade. All right, so let's see if it's got the juice. Again, just added to my notes here. After entry was neither clearly right or clearly wrong quickly. So if it's just going to consolidate and chop about, right, what else was I wrong about? Now, time of day indicates that my bias to the downside after an extended move is probably the correct one. Right, extended Bollinger Bands, fat PA, fake out above our entry price that we talked about. Right, so fake out above upper trend line. So that's that yellow line there. But if I'm not getting clear separation away from my thesis, then that's something also to be concerned about. Again, I'm 5 points away from my price, 3 points away from my price. But it's just not dying, and it's not, yeah, it's not dying or flying, right? in this context. So let's see if it can make lower lows here with some conviction. And push me green. points off. Come on. So been in this for a little bit of time. It's got to die here quick, otherwise I'll just take it and move on. Again, a slightly better entry makes this easier. Let's add a little bit of a chasey entry. Got a little inside bar. It's not quite dead. But again, the note I wrote down, right? Neither correct right away or wrong right away. Doesn't feel good. I'm still in here, Antonin, yeah. Hasn't really moved here. thing's fighting. Again, not the perfect entries made this trade a little bit more challenging than it should be. And I'm not right away, and I'm not wrong right away. And I'm happy I'm not playing options. Like that 233, that's the number that keeps sticking out of my mind of what should have been the entry. Down 200. Okay, I've done a good job here losing small today. Taking my risk reward shots, managing my risk, fine. Maybe not done a perfect job with my entry timing. Yeah, she's not moving much. That's a great entry, though, Jeff. That's a great entry. So just for transparency, stop loss is 246.75. But I'm going to give this thing a little bit of a shot clock here. Just need an incy teeny bit of cooperation. I don't feel like I'm getting it. Amazon selling off. AMD's at lows. Nvidia, not so much. 238, 237. Keep surviving my worst case scenario, but then not getting separation away. A little bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. $230. Out of coffee. If I could just get a little bit of ES cooperation. CL finding support off of those lows finally. So if that starts flying higher, right, we should see tech sell off. Come on, go, go, go. All right. So it took the $465 loss. So a little bit over 1K on the day. Not the banner return. Any questions here, team? I'm not going to place anything else here today. Some losing streak. That's reasonable, Jeremy. That's very reasonable. I think we've had a little bit of bad luck here in today's session, right? We played long, got stopped out, made new highs. Played long, got stopped out, made new highs. It's really the only thesis that was incorrect was probably this one to the downside here on this 15-minute time frame. Or at least the stop loss location was incorrect. Everything else, I mean, if you have no stop loss, you're green on the day, right? Which is really unfortunate. Stay safe, Jeremy. Hopefully you're okay, man. All right, any other questions here, team? Final call for questions. All right, well, if no further questions, then same deal like always, right? Hit me up outside of market hours, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, have yourselves, guys, a fantastic rest of the day, and we'll catch up tomorrow. Peace.